Perceived attractiveness to potential long-term and short-term mates.
Hi everyone, this is for Professor Duntley's Honors Sex, Power, and Conflict course, GIS 4678. Our research was designed to replicate one done by researchers Alexander and Fisher. They were questioning previous research which had stated that men preferred to have more partners in their lifetime than women. They believed the answers were due to social pressures placed upon men to say they had a large number of desired partners. Before this study, I would have actually agreed with the idea that men would prefer more partners overall, particularly in regards to short term, since this would allow for a greater possibility in the replication of their genes. One of the theories which would support the hypothesis in terms of men and women having varying feelings in regards to how members of the opposite sex view them as potential short-term partners is the parental investment theory. This theory, as simply defined by Robert L. Trivers, is the amount a parent invests in their offspring. This means the amount of resources used to benefit the offspring, furthering the success of the parent's genes. In this theory, women have the most to lose and must, by nature, invest more than a male. In simplified terms, a human child is really reliant upon their mother until around the age of 16. This is when it is thought that the child will be able to acquire the things necessary for their survival on their own. Even if the mother didn't stay for those years, a mother still has to carry the child for 9 months. A father, on the other hand, can simply leave after conception. So, in support of the hypothesis in question, it makes sense that men would desire to have more partners, particularly short-term, because the costs are so low. The participants were various Stockton University students of different ages and genders who agreed to complete the survey and allow measurements to be taken. First, the students were instructed to go to the polygraph observation room located in G229. Then, instruction was given on completing the 24-item survey, including a detailed explanation of the 3 possible conditions they would randomly be assigned to. Of course, at this point, they didn't know the deception that was being used. They would either be the polygraph observed condition, the polygraph not observed condition, or the no polygraph and no observation condition. It is important to note that the polygraph tends to be relatively inaccurate and in this case wasn't taking any readings. Before beginning the survey, students were asked to complete the informed consent. It is also important to note that using a female observer is similar to the original research that had been conducted, while the use of the male observer was new and specific to our study. The goal was to see how the responses would vary based upon the different scenarios they were placed in. For the purposes of the analysis that will be presented in this video, however, this information was not included, meaning the data was lumped together and the analysis was based off of male and female responses and not the conditions they were placed under. From there, the students completed the survey under the conditions that were explained to them. If not being observed, on completion of the survey, they retrieved the student researchers from the separate room they were waiting in. From there, height, weight, hip, and waist measurements were taken, as well as 2D/4D measurements. And 2D and 4D simply means index and ring finger. In the end, participants were debriefed and the deception that had been employed was thoroughly explained. This image just allows you to visualize how the 2D and 4D measurements are taken. This is an image of a typical polygraph setup and replicates the one that we used. The specific area of analysis I am focusing on relates to the difference between males and females and their responses in regards to their perceived attractiveness to potential long-term or short-term mates. There were 30 males and 36 females who responded. A standard independent t-test was run to analyze the data collected. This ensured there was no overlap in responses. In regards to long-term mates, women and men statistically had roughly the same number, meaning there was no real sex difference in regards to how attractive they view themselves to potential long-term mates. The mean for male responses was 6.8667, while the mean for women's responses was 6.9429. This led the p-value or significance to be at 0.882. Women indicated, however, that they felt they would be significantly more attractive to a short-term mate. In contrast, men rated themselves as less attractive to short-term mates. The mean for males in regards to attractiveness to short-term potential mates was 5.1000, while the female mean was 7.1714. There was strong statistical significance found in which would indicate a very low chance of this occurring as a mistake. The p-value was 0.000 for the attractiveness to short-term mates. The implications of these findings so far are really quite simple. It reinforces pieces of different theories which could allow for a more definitive and explanatory definition to be produced. In regards to the parental investment theory previously mentioned, in a sense, men realize that women have this burden to carry around if they pick even the wrong short-term mate in comparison to long-term. Men need women to reproduce and pass on their genes, which is what any and all organisms desire, so they would want as many mates as possible. As supported by the data mentioned later in the video, however, men must recognize that women aren't really looking for short-term mates because of the potential costs. It would also appear that women recognize their value to men as short-term mates. I think the idea of sex differences in terms of physical attractiveness is also important to note. Women desire status, and I would believe that college-age men tend to not view themselves as successful yet. I would tend to think that they're going to college to achieve their desired status, which would make them more attractive to women. This would lead them to view themselves as less attractive at this point in time, especially in terms of short-term mating. I do think that with the replication of this study and a higher number of participants, that the data would be more conclusive. A limitation in this analysis is the number of students that participated. To generalize the findings based off of 66 students to the entire male and female population is relatively unrealistic. Should the study be conducted enough times, however, with the same findings, one could begin to generalize with a little more certainty. This could potentially have implications in our understanding of the human race in that men don't view themselves as attractive to short-term mates and vice versa. It could essentially help researchers to explain the ways in which the psychology of men and women in given societies view each other as potential mates, particularly again in regards to short-term. If that society could understand this, then potentially after this understanding was passed generation to generation, men and women could actually find partners who are looking for exactly what they are. This could lead to more successful reproduction and survival of offspring. The list could go on and on. Thanks for watching, good luck on finals, and happy holidays.